Hello to our beautiful Sheelas. I am Missy.
And I'm April.
And this is our new podcast,
Sheela Na Gig.
Welcome. We are purveyors of women empowerment and women's stories. And we're going to kick it off here. We got a Sheela to share with you today. Her name was Lizzie Magie, who is our Sheela of the day.
Yes.
So first of all, do you love Monopoly?
Yeah, I do not.
You do not?
Well, as I've gotten older, I've come to love Monopoly, but when I was young, I didn't quite get it, and it went on, and so now.
Oh my God.
But
I was Monopoly obsessed from the time I was very young. And in fact, pretty early on, I read a book. I ended up like reading a book about
a book on how
to win Monopoly.
Are you serious? Mm-hmm. I didn't even know they wrote a book.
How to win Monopoly.
How to win Monopoly. Yeah. I didn't even know a book like that existed.
Yeah. And so I learned all these like special tricks. I will tell you this. Yeah. I know that
you're one of those competitive Sheelas, right? Gotta win?
I don't think I'm very competitive, but my son kind of...
Dude, you got a book on how to win Monopoly.
I know. Nolan, do you think I'm competitive? Okay, my son is shaking his head, yes. So my son Nolan is helping us, which we're very grateful for. So you may hear him kind of in the background or whatever.
Yay, Nolan.
Yay, Nolan. He is, at this point, helping us produce and all those exciting things.
That we don't venture into or try to do.
No, we don't even try to do that now.
Nope.
All right. I guess it depends on the circle. I was competitive about Monopoly. I'm going to admit that.
All right.
And I read this book. The one thing, I'll share a little bit because I don't want to share too much because if we ever play, I definitely have to beat you. Well, and if I give it all away, then I'm not going to beat you. But we've never played Monopoly. We're going to have to. Nolan loves Monopoly too.
Do you love Monopoly?
He does.
All right.
Okay. Anyway, so the most landed on properties are St. James Place.
The cheap ones.
Well, they're not that cheap. They're the second round around, like right before parking. They're the butterscotch colored ones.
Okay, yeah, I
There's
remember.
3 of those.
I remember them.
So you always want those because they are the most I think St. James is the most landed on property in Monopoly. So that is an important.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I only, when I started, my strategy was buy everything cheap. I didn't get the idea of why you would go for a park place, and...
Because the highest rent, April, highest rent.
I didn't say I was a sharp entrepreneurial child. I said that I didn't like board games.
Okay, so here's a question. Okay. When you played, because people do it differently, like in the middle we have free parking.
Wait. I have a question.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about Monopoly?
I'm going to get to that.
Oh, we're taking the scenic route there.
We're taking the scenic route.
Okay. All right, go. We're strolling.
It has to do with somebody named Lizzie Magie, who is our Sheela of the day.
Yes.
Who invented Monopoly. Okay, I'll get to that.
A woman invented Monopoly?
Yes. And you may have heard that somebody else, a dude. Yeah.
A dude. By the way, earlier I called you dude, and I apologize.
I don't mind.
This is Sheela Na Gig. We're about women's empowerment, so I shouldn't have called you a dude. I'm taking it back. Okay.
Could you call me lady? Milady, could you call me Milady?
Oh, well, certainly, my lady.
Call me Milady.
Keep strolling like on we're the story.
Okay, I know. So free parking. I'm just asking about free parking. In the middle. Yeah. Like when I play it, every chance card, that you get, and every time you're in jail or whatever, all that money goes in the middle.
Right.
So when you land on free parking, you get a stack of cash. Yep. Do you play that way?
Yep.
Okay, not everybody does, but I like that.
No,
and what are you when you play Monopoly? Like, how there's let's see, there's the shoe, there's the top hat, there's the wheelbarrow. There's a dog.
I was always the dog.
You're always the dog?
Yeah, I love dogs.
Yeah, I'm always the top hat.
Oh.
There's an iron, too. Like, who'd want to be the iron?
I don't know. That's an interesting thing about personality. Like, Nolan, when you play, what piece do you want?
Either the car or the dog.
The car or the dog. See, I think it says something about people.
It does. It does.
Interesting.
It's true. And
we're taking the real scenic route to this lady Lizzie.
No, it's true. And I'm pretty stuck in my pattern. Like I want to be that top hat. I do. But
well, you're a performer. That makes sense. Go ahead.
Maybe.
So keep
New
going.
York.
This is going to be a long podcast.
Sorry. Okay. So anyway. Yes. I'm going to say that Monopoly is one of the most popular board games in the world. Yeah,
believe that.
even to this day. And I mean, it was invented in the 1930s still. Millions of copies of the game have been sold, and thousands of different versions have been published all over the world.
Tell me about it.
Okay.
Do you know
What?
Do you know that there is a Santa Clarita Monopoly?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. And a Grateful Dead Monopoly.
Oh my God.
And of course, my husband's a Deadhead, and we live in Santa Clarita, so yeah, we have both.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I remember my mom got me the anniversary edition when I was probably like 15. And it had like a special like thing you'd put all the property cards and it would spin.
Ooh.
Yeah, it had a lot of like,
Fancy.
yeah, bells and whistles, very, very fancy. But we played back in Michigan, we played, I think it was Hello Kitty Monopoly.
Hello Kitty
Was it?
Monopoly.
Nolan, is that what it was? Hello Kitty Monopoly? Anyway, yeah, it was like Hello Kitty Monopoly, I think. And yeah, so there are a lot of different monopolies.
There are.
It's true. However, the origins of that game are not what most people think of course. In fact, the game was originally designed not as a way for people to win by amassing properties, but rather to demonstrate why that was a bad idea.
Oh, you're kidding. You're joking.
No, isn't that funny?
That's hysterical.
But people are so like just naturally greedy.
Yeah, wait a minute. You're blowing my mind at this moment.
I know.
That's crazy. Okay, so
Like you're supposed to learn a valuable lesson, but instead we're all just like, no, I want the most property. I want the most
missed the
rent.
lesson.
Give me more hotels.
So wait a minute. What is
Yeah.
it a socialist lesson? You know, we're all supposed to not own
Yeah,
property and
a
share?
little bit. So I'm going to tell you a little bit.
Okay, enlighten us, please.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to tell you. So Elizabeth J. Magie, otherwise known as Lizzie Magie, she was born in Macomb, Illinois in 1866 to Mary Jane Ritchie and James K. Magie, a newspaper publisher and an abolitionist who accompanied Abraham Lincoln as he traveled around Illinois in the 1850s debating politics with Stephen Douglas.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's pretty-
Wow. Now that's impressive.
That's pretty cool,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
very cool.
So after moving to D.C. in the Maryland area in the early 1880s, Lizzie Magie worked as a stenographer and a typist at the Dead Letter Office.
What's a dead letter office?
Okay, my mom used to always talk about the Dead Letter Office.
I've never
She'd
heard
be
of
like,
this.
she'd be like, you know, I tried to call you 5 times on Saturday. It just rang and rang. It's like I'm calling the Dead Letter Office. Where were you? So I was really excited
This
with
is
it.
where letters go to die?
Yes. That's why I was really excited because I really haven't heard that term Dead Letter Office since my mother, you know.
Why would somebody work at a...
Well, the idea was like they would get this mail in there that you couldn't like read the
Was
address.
undeliverable.
It was undeliverable mail, and they collected it
And what they do with it? Wallpaper the walls. What they do.
So they processed it, and it was established in 1825, and it was designated to investigate undeliverable mail with the intent of distributing it to its intended recipient at some point.
That sounds riveting.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
at all.
yeah.
I would die of boredom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay.
she worked there. I just thought it was made up until I did this research, and I was like, wait, the Dead Letter
real
Office.
thing.
It's a real place. Okay. She was also a short story writer. She was a poetry writer. She was a comedian, a
Really?
stage actress, a feminist, and an engineer.
Okay, this woman's getting complicated.
I know.
She was an engineer. I love the way you throw that in at the end.
I know.
Like, usually engineers are like, that's all they do.
No, I know.
Did
No.
she go to school? How is she an engineer?
Yeah, she went to school to become an engineer,
And
but
was she working?
then her creative interests kind of like
She's working
Yes.
in an office with dead letters. How creative. Does that scream
I wonder
creativity
if
to
she
you?
opened any of the dead letters and then she got inspiration for like, being a comedian.
You know, you're
and
making
writing.
this up.
No, I'm not. Okay, so at the age of
Okay.
25,
All right, yes.
she was also an inventor. She was an inventor.
She's an inventor. She's
What doesn't she do?
engineer. She's
Lizzie
a
Magie.
comedian.
Okay, and she's
And
26 and she's not married.
Okay.
She doesn't have children. This is very rare for this time. Like she
The
is her
whole thing is rare.
No,
Missy.
no.
Did you miss? She was an engineer. In what century? Come on.
Okay, she was
Okay.
Okay, she was remarkable and
Yeah.
remarkable, yet probably very few people have heard of her. I mean, some people have heard of her, but not as many that should have heard of her because, yeah. Anyway, at the age of 26, she received a patent for her invention that made the typewriting process easier by allowing paper to go through the rollers more easily.
No kidding.
Yeah. And at that time, women were credited with less than 1% of all patents.
Wow. So
But-
this Lizzie lady is
Yeah.
a Sheila.
Lizzie
for
Lady,
sure.
she's still a Sheila. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. She also worked as a news reporter for a brief time.
Come on. No one person could do all of that.
She really did, April.
And she worked in the dead letter office.
Yeah, she did. She did.
Okay.
That was
You're
like
blowing my mind.
Those were her humble beginnings. But
Her
then she went on
beginnings.
to do all this other stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So she worked also as a newspaper reporter for a brief time, and that was in the 1900s.
Yeah.
And in 1910, at age 44,
Yes.
she finally got married.
Oh, well, okay.
She married Albert Wallace Phillips, and she had no children.
Well, by that time, the ship sailed.
And she did not
Especially
change.
back
She
then.
did not change her last name.
Whoa, Lizzie!
I mean,
woo, that's impressive.
I think she did, but she didn't use it.
Okay.
Okay, so it is, but it's
That's
like
a feminist. She's
well, it's like
definitely
me.
a
I got
feminist.
married at 41.
Yeah.
And she
you
got married at
didn't?
41, and I didn't change my last name.
That's
I'm like, what the heck? I mean, it's my first marriage. I'm 41 years old. Like, I could change my name. I'm 41, you know?
But then you can't, remember it.
Yeah, it's a little confusing when you have kids. She didn't have any children. She never had any
Okay.
children.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was an outspoken activist for the feminist movement and for Georgism, which reflected her father's political beliefs when she was young. Georgism refers to the economic perspective that instead of taxing income or other sources, the government should create a universal land tax based on the usefulness, size, and location of the land.
So, okay.
So
now
getting
we're
back to monopoly,
yeah,
okay?
We're getting somewhere, yeah.
Then, after funding the government, the leftover money would be distributed to the people.
That socialist theme,
There-
right?
there you go. There you go.
Lizzie was a socialist.
That's right. So many
Right.
progressive political leaders at the time supported this economic perspective, and it motivated people to actually cultivate land, and it distributed wealth to people of low socioeconomic standing.
So it kind of spread the wealth.
It did. It spread the wealth.
Okay.
It eradicated the idea that landowners or landlords held the power and monetary value of the land that the citizens used and let people own all of the value and benefits of their creations. This belief became the basis for her game known as the landlord's game.
The landlord's game.
Yeah. So prior to being called
Okay.
Monopoly,
Yeah.
it was called the landlord's game.
So wait a minute. I'm trying to wrap my brain around
Okay.
this. The idea is to buy property, but distribute it. Yeah. How does this work?
Again, it's kind of getting back to, why it demonstrates, why it's a bad idea. You know what I mean? Like, you're collecting.
So
the
like
landlords are
evil
collecting. Yeah,
money,
exactly.
Got it. And our wealth obsessed culture, we just forget the lesson and just go for
Right,
the
we're just
biggest
greedy
property.
motherfuckers. And we're just
Well, just lay it right out
give
there.
me those fucking give me those 4 horses. I'm turning that
Lizzie-
into a hotel as soon as possible. Yeah.
Poor Lizzie must be turning over in her grave decades, centuries
Yeah.
of playing. Well, I guess not centuries, but decades
Yeah.
of people just winning and monopolizing. Wow.
But furthermore, she believed that women were also as capable as men.
Well,
as
no,
do we.
Well, no, duh.
Isn't that?
Look at what she's done.
But that is a radical thought back then. That is a
back then.
radical thought.
It's a radical thought.
And she thought, they were as capable as men in everything, inventing and in business and in other professional areas. And in the 1900s, this belief was considered both novel and, again, radical.
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. And when she worked as a stenographer, she was only making
Why
10
was she working as a stenographer?
I don't know.
The woman was a
engineer.
engineer and all these other amazing things.
For whatever reason, but she wasn't making enough money, and her,
Well, I
her
guess
husband
back
had
then-
her husband had to help support her. Like you could not be a single woman and support yourself at that time.
I guess that makes
Maybe
sense,
that's why she finally
right?
decided at 44 to get married, because she was like,
There you go. Forget love.
I gotta-
forget romance,
I gotta move
forget
out of this
family.
shack.
Yep.
I got to move out of this shack, man. I got to move out of my car.
It's an economic plan.
Exactly, perhaps. But in order to bring the struggles of women in the United States to the public's attention, she did this
Yes.
super radical thing. This
Yeah.
is kind of an amazing story.
Tell.
She bought an advertisement. This is right before she got married. She bought an advertisement and tried to auction herself off as a young woman American slave looking for a husband to own her.
Wait. Oh my God.
And that's how she met her husband. No, I'm just kidding.
That would be.
Well, it was
really
funny
bad.
because I kept looking like, is that how she met her husband? I never found evidence that was true, but
Okay.
you never know. I don't know. But
Wow, I bet you her ad got a bit of attention.
it did. And this advertisement, it was meant to show the position of, both women and black people in our country, emphasizing the fact that the only people that were truly free were white fucking men. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. She had a brass pair. Go
She had a brass pair.
She is a Sheela with,
Not only a large vulva, but a brass pair.
A brass pair.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Keep
And
going.
when we say large vulva, if you didn't listen to our first episode, you'll have no idea what we're talking about. So go back and listen to that. Okay. Anyway, it spread rapidly through the news and gossip columns and around the country.
It was a
and
scandal.
Maggie made a name for herself as an outspoken and proud feminist and as a radical.
Nice.
Right.
Love it.
So she was already kind of like known a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she made her first game known as the Landlord's Game in 1903. Mm-hmm. And she applied to the U.S. Patent Office for a patent on her board game. She was granted that patent on January 5th, 1904.
So why is the dude credited with
It's
the
coming.
game?
It's coming.
Okay, well,
You just wait.
I'm excited.
And the crazy thing is she received her patent before women were even legally allowed to vote.
Wow. So I love it. You can get a patent if you are brilliant
Right.
enough to do something, but you can't vote.
And only 1% of women, again, were getting patents at that time.
That's, wow.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So the landlord game was placed on a square board. Players moved around the board. They landed on properties that they could buy. Each property had different values, with the top properties being Broadway, Fifth Avenue, and Wall Street. There were also spaces for railroads, utilities, and a space for jail. Does that sound familiar?
Sounds familiar.
Does it sound familiar?
I think I know this game.
Yeah. It doesn't it just sound strangely like Monopoly?
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So in 1906, Maggie moved to Chicago.
Yeah.
And that year, she and her fellow Georgist formed the Economic Game Club.
The Economic Game Club. Now,
Yeah.
What was the Economic Game Club?
It was to self-publish her original games.
So she had multiple games.
Yeah, she did.
On how to understand economics.
Not everything. There was, So she had a very humorous card game called Mock Trial.
Mock Trial.
And in 1910, actually, Parker Brothers published that.
No kidding.
They published that
Wow.
game.
Did she
And,
make money on it?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Okay, so in 1924, she and her husband moved back to the East Coast, and they patented a revised version of her games.
They updated it?
Yeah, well, yeah. And her original patent had expired in 1921.
Oh, so she needed to.
Yeah, she was a little behind there. But this was seen as her attempt to reassert control over her game, which was now being played all over college campuses across the United States. It kind of caught on. It was this renegade game that kind of caught on like wildfire. She self-published it. People were... they were making their own games based on it. They were, and it was really popular.
I have a question. Were they getting into the capitalism of the game, or were they learning the lessons that Lizzie wanted them to get?
Well, there were a lot of Quakers who really loved this game. So I suspect the Quakers were really understanding the game. Yeah, and I suspect the rest of the motherfucking world.
Those business students in college, can you see them going, no, I think that we should buy this and distribute it through the neighborhood?
Right.
I don't see it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, not really. Not really. Okay. So anyway, it was catching on. It was kind of an exciting time.
Very cool.
And, these college students were kind of making their own copies. And then in 1932, her second edition of the Landlord's Game was published by a different company. It was called the Ad Game Company of Washington, D.C. So,
well, that's not her game.
No, she had self-published her game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right.
And now she kind of updated it. And now she, kind of revised it, updated a new edition of the Landlord's Game, which is her game. And that was was published by the Ad Game Company in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So a little up from self-publishing.
She got some recognition.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Maggie's game was becoming increasingly popular around the northeastern United States. College students attending Harvard, Columbia, University of Pennsylvania, left-leaning middle-class families, and Quakers were all playing her board game.
I love it. Harvard dudes and Quakers.
There you go,
Why
right?
not?
Yeah.
Why not?
What a combination, right?
Interesting.
And at this point, the Landlord's Game had been out for 3 decades. decades. It was circulating for 3 decades. In one form or another, it was circulating, right?
That's impressive, yeah.
Okay. So in the early 1930s, a woman named Ruth Hoskins, she learned the game in Indianapolis, where she was a teacher, but she was from Atlantic City. She took the game back to Atlantic City, New Jersey. She made a new board game using the names of streets in Atlantic City. So that's what people were doing, kind of like the one in Santa Clarita, right? People were like taking the game and then bringing it home and then applying, their properties.
I wonder if that's how we got the boardwalk.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
All right.
Right? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So Hoskins taught the game to another Quaker named Eugene Rayford, who taught it to his friend Charles Todd, who in turn taught it to a woman named Esther Darrow. Esther Darrow was the wife of Charles Darrow, and it's 1932. Esther Darrow is taking a walk, and she runs into her old friend Charles Todd.
Okay.
Charles Todd is this childhood friend, and they have
Esther, good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's been a minute.
Do it with a New York accent. Come on.
Esther, it's so good to see you. It's been a minute. What are you up to? Did you get married? What's going on?
So anyway, the four of them got together.
Yes,
Okay.
and they played the game, didn't
the
they?
Darrows and the Todds got together.
Admit it, they played the game.
They played the game.
Okay.
They did.
Yeah, we're cutting to the chase here.
So they would invite them over for it became a kind of a
It became a thing.
Like, hey.
Oh, let's go to the Darrow's house
Yeah.
and play the game.
Right.
It was-
Right. So not the
All right.
Darrow's house, the Todd's house.
Oh, the Todd's house.
The
Okay. The Darrow's
would go to the
Todd's
Todd's
Got
house. Right.
it.
Okay. So they played their homemade version of Monopoly.
Monopoly.
I'm going to start calling Monopoly. They played a homemade version of Monopoly, the Todds and the Darrows.
Yeah.
And one Charles Darrow
Yes.
was immediately hooked.
What's scary to me right now is I know that name, but I'm having trouble placing exactly why. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Anyway. All right. So after Charles Darrow played the game for the first time, believe it or not, there they are, having a little whiskey, smoking their cigars. He says to Charles Dodd, he would like a written set of rules. Can you write down those instructions for me? Do
He's
you
gonna
mind?
steal that game, isn't
well,
he?
we don't know.
Oh, we know.
But Todd did find this request a little odd.
Yeah.
Since there were no written rules for the game, but he did his best to kind of write down what he knew.
So he handed this Darrow dude the keys to the kingdom.
A little
basically.
bit. A little bit.
He just sat there.
You were kind of jumping ahead of the story here,
I
April.
know, because I know the name Todd Darrow. Charles Darrow.
Yeah, because you know why? Because he was super famous for inventing the most popular game in the world, Monopoly, and he didn't fucking invent it.
Right.
But you don't know the name Lizzie Magie. That's what I'm talking about here. That
I
is
know.
what precisely what we are talking
see
about,
where
right?
This is going.
Okay.
This is so bad.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right.
So Darrow drinks the Kool-Aid on Monopoly and decides
Darrow,
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So the U.S. was in the middle of the Great Depression, and Darrow had indeed lost his job. He was struggling immensely.
I bet you he wasn't interested in socialist lessons about money, the evils of money.
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably
All right.
not.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
I don't know how well his Quaker roots served him. So, all right. So given the circumstances, he soon decided that he had a little bit of a gold mine on his hands.
Man recognizes opportunity when he sees it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So he, says to his good old buddy, Mr. Political Cartoonist Franklin F.O. Alexander, hey, man, can you, help me? I have this great idea for a game, and you're such a good graphic designer. Did they call it a graphic designer then? Probably not.
I don't know what
What did they call it? You're such a good artist.
An artist,
There we go. You're such a good artist,
Yeah.
right? Can you help me come up with some, cool, iconic characters and stuff for this board game that I'm working on? He says, sure, why
Now,
not,
this is
right?
making me feel bad for every time I love that dog in the Monopoly game. I'm feeling bad about all of it.
Well, the dog was just made of metal. I don't know. I don't
know, but it's the association. I'm associating with Darrow's dream, and that feels icky right now.
I know.
Okay.
I know, right?
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So Mr. Franklin F.O. Alexander worked on the design, and some accounts list his contributions as including the now iconic human characters seen on the board game. These include the rich Uncle Pennybags. Can you? As soon as I say the name, I can picture the card.
Right?
It's on, it's on like that community chest or that chance card, right?
Absolutely.
Jake the Jailbird. That's on the get out of jail free card, right? As well as his illustrations that have remained mostly unchanged, such as the tap and the light bulb for the utilities.
Oh, right.
They're still the same to this
Still
day.
the same.
So that guy all the way back then designed it. Yeah, he did.
He nailed it.
And then also just the question marks seen on the chance spaces in cards, which I think like question mark. Okay, got it. All right. Anyway, so Darrow used his initial profits to refine his version further, and after some sales success, the game would go on to be bought by Parker Brothers in 1935. So he goes to Parker's Brothers and he says, "Hey, I got this amazing game."
Did Lizzie ever call it Monopoly or?
No, she included the name, like in the actual game. There was like the word Monopoly was included in the game,
but it wasn't the name
but it
of the
wasn't called
game.
Monopoly.
Because she wasn't trying to teach people about monopolies.
See.
I'm catching on.
Okay. Wow. So Darrow uses initial profits because he started kind of making the game and distributing it to his friends,
right?
starting to get, same thing she did basically.
Yeah.
Parker Brothers buys it in 1935. And it's the same year that Darrow and Parker Brothers obtained a U.S. patent for this board game Monopoly.
Oh, wow.
And it sold 278,000 units in 1935. And in 1936, it sold 1,751,000 games.
Son of a
The
gun.
game was an unprecedented success.
Of course it was. Thank you, Lizzie.
Hey, thank you, Lizzie.
Oh, man.
Soon after the deal with Parker Brothers was made, Darrow was asked by the president of the company for a written account of how he came up with the idea.
Oh, and what did Charles say?
Well, he was just in his basement one day.
And it just dawned on him.
That's how he acted. Like, I was just in my basement, scratching my balls.
Yeah,
And like,
I should have had a meeting, right? Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so depressed.
I know.
This is so sad.
It's really sad.
Wow.
And then this is where, Darrow told his lie, and this lie would be repeated for years and years to come about how he just, on a random whim, was in his basement, just, came up with this great idea.
Well, fabulous.
Wow,
For
right?
Darrow.
Yeah.
What happened to Lizzie?
But Parker Brothers
Yes.
soon discovered Darrow's wasn't telling the truth.
Oh,
With a little bit of research, they suddenly go, "Oh shit! Look,
we bought the same game."
Yeah, there's this game. Wait, oh my God, it's basically copied the same idea of the landlord's game, but this thing's called Monopoly.
And what did Parker Brothers do?
Well, they were really upstanding.
Yeah, I'm sure. Based on what we know about history, I'm sure they were upstanding.
Well, they became a little bit worried about Maggie and her
nice.
1924 patent.
Yes.
So in November of 1935, George Parker himself visited the now 70-year-old Maggie Lizzie.
Did he really?
He did.
And what did he do?
And he told her that the company had come across her board game and that they wanted to sell it.
Yeah.
So basically they come to her and they're like, "Hey, your board game, we want to sell it." And Maggie was obviously delighted by this prospect of her board game finally being mass produced and sold widely.
Hey.
So she accepted the $500 that they offered her.
They offered her $500
and no royalties either.
Oh my God.
So they were free and clear.
Yep. Now they owned it outright.
They bought it from her for $500.
This is so sad.
It's just so awful. It's so people are shit, man. Like people suck sometimes. This is so sad, right? Like okay. So in 1936, of course, Maggie was of course suddenly shocked to realize that she was seeing Monopoly on sale, especially as someone called Darrow was listed as the inventor.
Oh, wow. That must have broken her heart.
It did. So she suddenly started seeing this Monopoly and she started realizing like, wait, this is the landlord's game. It's called Monopoly. This is the game they bought from me, but they only paid me $500 and they're saying that it was invented by this guy, Charles Darrow, who I've never heard of in my life.
Did she sue? No. What did she do?
So she wanted some form of payback. She decided to fight back via the press, but the story was hardly front page news.
Oh,
and she was soon forgotten.
Oh,
They just blew her off.
That's so sad.
I know. And of course, Monopoly went on to become this huge worldwide success. The royalties for Monopoly made Charles Darrow a millionaire.
Of course it did.
The first game inventor ever to earn that much money. And Maggie was all but forgotten.
Oh, you know what's really sad? Well, the whole thing is sad. But you know what really gets me? Is the fact that she was somebody who really just wanted to distribute the wealth and teach a lesson.
Yeah.
And in a sense, she was successful. And here's this guy, he comes along, he sees the greed and the opportunity, just sort of the capitalist dream, and that's...
It's a freaking irony of the whole thing. It's so ironic, the whole thing, right?
It's
just,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
What a horrible human being. I hope his wife left him.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
He's this stinking millionaire. Why would she go?
That's so shallow, April.
I know.
I can't believe you would say that. Would you stay with Charles? Wait a second.
I would not
Would
have
you
married,
stay with Charles Darrow?
I wouldn't have married somebody so unimaginative
lefty Quaker?
to begin with. A lefty Quaker. He's no lefty.
He wasn't
Quaker.
Jewish. You wouldn't have married him.
What does that have to do with Monopoly?
Well, come on. Like, you wouldn't have married a lefty Quaker. You were
would.
looking for a
No.
nice Jewish man, right?
No, I would go for a lefty Quaker. Honey,
Okay.
don't listen. I love you. But yeah, I would. Lefty Quakers are cool. This Darrow guy,
But if he did this and he was a
cool.
millionaire and you were wearing like furs
No,
and
I said
diamonds.
she. I said she. I didn't say me.
Okay.
Let's make some distinctions.
Anyway,
there.
okay,
Go
anyway,
on.
okay.
So what happened?
In January 1936, an interview with Maggie appeared in a Washington, D.C. newspaper in which she was critical of Parker Brothers.
Well, yeah.
She spoke to reporters about the similarities between Monopoly and the landlord's game, and the article published spoke to the fact that Maggie spent more money making her game than she received in the earnings.
Oh, that burns.
I know.
That burns. I hate that.
Yeah. And after the interviews, Parker Brother agreed to publish 2 more of her games.
Oh, okay.
Like, oh, wait a second. You sent in a lot of games. You know what? Just to make you feel better, we'll publish these games.
Oh, how very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that made nothing.
That made nothing, but she had an imagination.
But they were trying to they were trying to be
Appease.
upstanding, appease,
Oh,
right?
sure.
Right?
No, they were trying to appease
Hey, it's not
her.
our fault they didn't sell, but we bought your other games. What's the problem?
I don't call that
And
upstanding.
of course,
Yeah.
Darrow continued to get the credit for inventing
Of
Monopoly.
course, yes.
Okay, so she
That's
died.
why I know the name. Go ahead.
So Maggie died at 81 in 1948, and she was buried with her husband, Albert Wallace Phillips. He had died in 1937.
Yeah.
And again, she died without having any children.
Oh.
And at her death,
And no game. Yeah.
she was not credited for the impact that she had on the board game community and American culture. She was never credited in her lifetime.
Well, that stinks.
Bless her heart.
Well, I want to thank you for telling the story. This was a beautiful story.
But I'm not done.
Oh, yeah. But wait, there's more?
It gets a little good now.
Okay, well, deliver the good.
Okay. So
what
that
else?
is super
What
sad.
happened?
That was
Okay.
super sad.
It
And that's why like somebody like Lizzie Magie, we want to bring her to the masses. Like we
Right.
want to, that's what I'm talking about. Like we want to empower women. We want to let these women's stories live on.
Exactly,
Like we
that's
want the
why we're
truth to be
here.
revealed. We want you to know like
So what happened?
what an asshole Charles Darrow was. Okay.
Okay.
It wasn't until the 1970s that the story of Lizzie Magie and the Landlord game came to light.
Ooh.
Based on the existing copies of her game that had survived.
Ooh, go
As well as
Maggie.
those patents that she had filed.
Yay, good for her. Some retribution.
It was only after her death that the impact that Maggie had made on American culture and life began to be appreciated. She made such an impact on American culture and American life. First and foremost, she helped to popularize the circular board game. Most board games at that time were linear. A circular board game that concentrated on interacting both socially and competitively with the opponents was a novel idea.
We've been so focused on the Monopoly and the buy, but we didn't even think about the dynamics of just playing a board game.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
I know.
Wow.
And so
That is cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Her board game did not only lay the foundation and the inspiration for Monopoly, the most famous board game in the United States, but also, provided entertainment that taught about George's principles, the value in spreading wealth, and the harmfulness of monopolies.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What?
She also contributed to pressure for women's and Black people's rights
Because she was an activist, right?
Yeah, she was.
So?
Through educating others about these concepts, inventing board games at a time when women held less than 1% of those U.S. patents.
Right. And she was
publishing,
an engineer.
Yes, and publishing political material in newspapers to speak out against the oppression of women and Black communities in the U.S.
Wow.
And I will tell you that in 2015, a book by journalist Mary Pylon was published. And it's The Monopolists, Obsession, Fury, and the Scandal Behind the World's Favorite Board Game.
Whoa. And this is Lizzie's story?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
A woman, right? Yay,
Yeah.
yay, another Sheela.
Yeah,
Yay, Mary
I was just
Pylon.
gonna say, we should cover her in one of our Sheelas.
We should.
That's
So
awesome.
she, shined that light on the game's disputed history. And also in the 1970s, there was somebody that did like an anti-monopoly, and
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I just want to give this dude a little credit too. I
Okay.
can't remember his name right now, but he was the one who started kind of like uncovering everything initially. So yes, there was a book written, but in the 70s, that's when she started. And part of the reason that her story kind of came to light was because of this dude who was trying to do this anti-monopoly game and kind of did some research and realized, like, wait a second.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How did you know about it?
Well, April and I are met in a networking group, and I run one of the meetings, and
Yeah.
I do little women's history.
I know what you do. You do
Yeah.
women's history.
So
and
it
you
was like-
came across it.
I came across her because it was like her birthday or something, and I was like, "Oh, Lizzie Magie's birthday. Who's Lizzie Maggie? Oh my God!" And then I went down
And
this.
you went
I went
down
down the
this whole
path.
rabbit hole.
I went down the rabbit hole path, and I'm like, "Oh
I'm
my
glad
God!"
you did. This was pretty cool.
Yeah, and hooray for Lizzie Magie. It sucks that she never got her due credit while she was alive, but.
No. But it's great that
God bless her soul.
Right?
She's, I one thing I wonder,
What's that?
and I need to probably do a little more research on it. Like, I'm sure she had some family. Like, yes, she did not have children of her own, but she was married. I'm sure. I wonder if her family in any way ever got financially compensated. That is one thing I don't know.
One thing I would say, don't hold your breath. I need you for the next podcast.
It's true. It's true.
Well,
and that was super fun.
that was really cool.
I mean, it was a little disheartening and sad, but it's enlightening and fun and a good thing to put these women up on their pedestal where they belong,
Absolutely. That's what Sheela Na Gig is all about.
That is what Sheela Na Gig is all about. Tune in next time to Sheela Na Gig. We're so delighted you are here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Sheela Na Gig.